There's a major implication emerging from current water damage building research that almost nobody is talking about. And it may expose one of the biggest blind spots in the remediation and inspection industry. For years, most investigations in mold related buildings have focused almost entirely on fungi, fungal air samples, fungal growth, fungal clearance criteria. But a recent review of sick building syndrome and chronic inflammatory response syndrome research proposes something very different. The paper argues that in water damaged buildings, the dominant inflammatory drivers may not be fungi alone. In fact, the proposed attributed fractions were approximately 42% Actinobacteria, 28% bacterial endotoxins, only about 7% fungi, and another 6 to 10% beta glucans. Now, important distinction. These are not final, universally accepted conclusions. They are part of an evolving mechanistic framework attempting to explain chronic inflammatory responses in water damaged environments. But if that framework is even directionally correct, the implications are massive because most indoor environmental assessments are still heavily mold centered. Most post remediation clearance criteria are still heavily mold centered, and many buildings are being declared clean based primarily on fungal sampling. But what happens if the dominant inflammatory drivers were never measured in the first place? What happens if the remaining exposure is bacterial fragments, endotoxins, actinobacteria, beta glucans, or fine particulate reservoirs embedded throughout the building and HVAC system? That's the gap, and it may explain why some occupants continue to react in buildings that technically passed remediation. Because a water damaged building is not just a mold problem, it's a complex microbial exposure environment. And if we continue evaluating those environments through a fungi only lens, we may only be seeing part of the picture. That is why this conversation matters. Because the future of this field may not be mold centric, it may be exposure centric.